Welcome back, everybody. Joining us today is Giovanni Zacchia. Giovanni is an experienced growth marketing lead specializing in high growth tech companies and mobile first businesses. Giovanni has vast experience leading CRM at companies such as Airbnb, Olio, Miro, and Hotel Tonight. Giovanni, thank you so much for joining me on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. I am excited for our conversation today. I feel like you have such a great breadth and depth of experience over all these different companies you've worked at and saw so many different things. So I'm excited that you're joining me today. But I'd love to start out with getting to know a little bit more about your background. So maybe you could tell us about your early career and how you got into CRM leadership roles.
Yeah, sure. I actually like to start at my time at university because that's when I actually got pretty involved into tech companies and my early career. So since I was a kid, actually, I was very excited about new technologies and innovation. So I was the one following all the Apple events, the new type of apps that were releasing. And when I was at uni in Milan was the year when Uber opened the first Italian city in the Italian market and actually internationally. And so I got really excited and I was actually myself reaching out to the team and asked if they needed help to grow their user base. So for me, it was also an opportunity to actually put in practice what I was learning at university. And so throughout like a year and a half, I helped them find thousands of new users in Milan. And so was my first kind of experience in terms of understanding, which users, which segments should I talk to about this new product and how I can engage them and signing up to use the app. And then from there, I decided to focus on these disruptive companies. And so after I finished my studies, I flew to London, joined Hotel Tonight. Hotel Tonight is an app for last minute booking. And at the time they were expanding the international market. And so I actually joined as a sales and account manager. So nothing to deal with CRM. That was helping them grow the hotel inventory in Italy. So signing hotel in the market. And so I would say also it was sort of like a CRM type of work because I had to understand what are the difficulties of these hotels. How can I alleviate their problem by offering them a new platform where they could sell last minute rooms to users that mostly use mobile devices. So actually for them was a way to expand kind of like the reach of customers. So of course, on one hand, you have the technology that you have to adopt as like for a much traditional industry. But it was a very exciting time when I was at Hotel Tonight. And from there, essentially what happened is that Hotel Tonight is a San Francisco-based company. So they weren't actually investing a lot in marketing in international. So even here, it was myself coming up and saying, hey, I have a degree in marketing. I can help you with some activities for the international segment. So we started by doing small campaigns of CRM within our international market. And so that was essentially my first real CRM job. So we saw the opportunity. We did a few tasks to start with, and then we decided to essentially have a function of CRM for international. And that's what I started my career in CRM. Then from there, essentially, I had the opportunity to grow and had a more leader position and own the whole global CRM program for Hotel Tonight. From London, of course, I was traveling every 2 months. That was the headquarters, meeting my team there. Yeah, it was a fun time, a lot of travel. But of course, most of the functions were still in San Francisco while I was in London. But as I said, it was a very exciting time. And I would say another very pivotal moment of that experience was when Hotel Tonight got acquired by Airbnb. We became part of the bigger family of Airbnb. And throughout that time, I still focused on the Hotel Tonight brand, but of course we had many opportunities to collaborate with the Airbnb team. And that was extremely exciting. And then, after I think it was already like 6 years or more in the hospitality industry, I finally kind of took a little risk and say, hey, I want to see what's going on outside this industry. And so I learned a lot what's concerning CRM. And so I decided actually to move away from London, going to Amsterdam, changing a lot of
Wow.
things
Okay.
and joining Miro. Miro is the leading whiteboard online for collaboration.
Love-
And yeah, and I joined during the pandemic. So it was actually the time when the company and the startup was growing really, really fast.
Mhm.
We're acquiring thousands of people every day. And my role was actually around activating the customers. So it was focused really on the activation of new customers by using our CRM channels, heavily using emails. And so it was a great time to learn how to move fast, how to research a lot into customer insights to develop tasks that you can deploy pretty quickly. Because again, the company was moving so fast that we had to keep that pace. So it was very interesting opportunity. And then lastly, my last move has been most recently around 2 years ago, where when I decided to go back to London and join a small startup called Olio. Olio is an app that allows communities to reduce their waste, whether it's food or items that they don't need, so that they can give it to someone living nearby that might be interested in. So first time that I probably joined a company that is completely machine driven, has an amazing goal that we want to achieve to reduce waste, have an impact into our environment. And I was the first hire in CRM. So again, another challenge that I took to come in and kind of figuring out what we're going to do with CRM, identifying those opportunities and deciding where we're going to put our focuses, because there were really a lot that we had to do. And then from there, really doing a lot of research into our customers to understand how we're going to activate them, but most importantly, how we're going to retain them to our app. And being in the sustainability industry, I think it's very interesting the reasons why someone would use an app like that to kind of like share something with someone else.
Right.
So it's been really exciting from start to finish. And I think the curiosity has always been the reason why I sometimes change job or even change role. I always, spoke up and say, hey, why don't can I focus on this type of industry, or why don't I look for something that is a little bit as an exciting project or something that really let me put my skill into practice, even if it's a completely new industry. So I was never afraid of that. I like taking that type of risk.
That is super cool. And I think that's the tone and the foundation for our entire conversation today, because clearly from everything that you've said, you've had these different experiences in these CRM based roles so that you can learn it with different types of users, different types of strategies. And I think that's really interesting, because I think these things are going to be unique no matter what company you're in or what industry you're in, but you've actually had quite an experience there. And I think one thing that our listeners would find really interesting, I know I definitely would, is the fact that you've worked at some very well-known and large-scale tech companies as well. Obviously, one of them being Airbnb, which also must have been even more interesting being part of an acquisition versus the company itself even. But I'm curious to know, at your time with Airbnb when they acquired Hotel Tonight, what was it like when you joined and how did you help them? And did you see any really interesting retention strategies at Airbnb?
Yeah, as I said, I think that was probably the most exciting time of my career. It doesn't happen that often that a company such as Airbnb would acquire the more startup you're working.
Yeah.
And, I think, first of all, the acquisition, it really made sense at the beginning. When they did that in 2019, Airbnb actually wanted to expand a little bit the type of accommodations that they would offer. And the hotel segment was something that they were very interested in. And so they wanted to kind of acquire a company that had skills within the sector, but also would align with the values of Airbnb and the type of product. So I think both Airbnb and Hotel Tonight are two companies that has really invested into the customer experience and the design of the product. Hotel Tonight is probably the best app to book a hotel. It takes 3 taps. It gives the best user experience when you want to look for an accommodation. So they really saw the opportunity there. And so at the beginning with the acquisition, the bigger project was to actually launch Airbnb hotels. That was prior to COVID. So, you can still find a few hotels actually on Airbnb, but the way you book a hotel is a little bit different than what you book when you book a home or a room. So they wanted to kind of um, uh, like have a page for hotels that was a little bit different, that would, kind of like really have a different experience with the customers in that sense. So that was the biggest project, but how CRM actually was involved, was another project, which is Airbnb actually lacked, of accommodation in the last minute, sector. So, sometimes you don't find someone that could check you in the same day, in just a few hours, and especially in big cities. So, we actually had a big project into integrating our inventory with their inventory. We actually started with emails. So whenever you were browsing a city on Airbnb, for the same night, and they didn't have enough hotels, we would integrate that email with hotels on Hotel Tonight. So that was a fun way of leveraging really both of our products, and seeing really good return into conversion. And also, of course, Hotel Tonight was a way to expand our brand awareness. So that was one of the first fun projects. And then the other one, again, looking at how we were collaborating, we tested an integration between Airbnb experiences and Hotel Tonight bookings. So whenever you book a hotel with Hotel Tonight, we would then show you at the time of check-in Airbnb experiences. So any activity that you could do in the city. So, of course, being contextual to the city and proposing all the top experiences. And that was a really fun project and plans that we were running at the beginning. And done all these little things, but going back to the strategy of retention of Airbnb, I think the reason why Airbnb has been so successful and how they're actually growing is mostly because they created a product that people really love. And when you use Airbnb, you really have a good experience. You're really delighted on how the booking flow looks like comparing to maybe other booking platforms. And they designed it as well by listening to customers. I think their research and all the interviews and focus group that they have really led them to design an experience that you might say it's simple, but essentially it's just core. Like what you want is just getting the information that you need from that listing, from that booking, and then that very simple booking flow. So I think that's how they really gain a very strong retention strategy by really focusing on the product, but also creating a product that is led by design. So it's not only data that is, giving me insights, but I'm creating a product that has offering a user experience that people really love. And I think that's why also Hotel Tonight was acquired, because we were doing pretty much the same. We were creating a product that is really led by design. And I think in terms of retention strategies, one fun fact that came that Hotel Tonight and my role at Hotel Tonight has been focusing, of course, on retention. And one of the activities that we were doing quite a lot was creating weekly newsletters for our customers and being very personal in terms of the recommendations that we were giving to our customers. And so we had this very well elaborated calendar throughout the year where each campaign had a test. We're trying to understand, for example, which amenities were resonating the most with our customers, what type of category of hotels were resonating the most, but also trying to create kind of like almost like an editorial type of newsletter, inspiring customers and creating that storytelling of our hotels. And Airbnb was actually really surprised by how advanced was our CRM program and this type of kind of calendar that we had that they tested as well. Kind of like that was like my little proud moment where Airbnb tested something that I did for Hotel Tonight.
That's actually really cool. And I think it's so important too, because booking hotels, these days as a customer or consumer, it's an exciting thing. It's something that I look forward to. It's an experience I'm doing. So I want the experience to reflect that. And so you're so right of how you said that. I don't actually use Hotel Tonight myself, but I've used Airbnb. And one of my favorite things about using the app itself, which is why I'll choose it over other booking sites, is the actual booking experience itself, because it's so intuitive, it's seamless. And then even the Airbnb experiences, I found multiple different things that I really enjoy on there. And even just getting these personalized recommendations because they knew that I enjoyed this cooking class and I got a recommendation for a private chef dinner that I could do another time. And I think it's so interesting that you got to experience that on the other side because you can really see how important that is, how much impact it made. So I can imagine that'd be really interesting to be a lead on. So very cool. Very, very cool.
Yeah.
I'm also curious to know, one, you've been working with things like Hotel Tonight and Airbnb and Olio and Miro, all the different experiences. What do you think are some of the greatest challenges of working in CRM in the current landscape that you're seeing?
I think one of the biggest challenges with CRM is to kind of like always be up to date with the new technologies. I think it's very easy to stick to what you know and how you run a CRM campaign and what you have to do. But I think more and more recently, we have way more tools, way more technologies that we can leverage. Thinking about AI or thinking about segmentations. Like, I think there are so many additional tools that CRM leaders should be aware of. And so I think, in some companies, the challenge has always been picking up and kind of showing to leaders how important it is to invest in CRM, to have the most advanced tooling for CRM and not just the basic one, because they can actually improve the user experience by offering more personalized campaign, for example, or having more advanced segmentation and creating better cohorts, having more better profiling of our customers. So I think the challenge for some companies really putting the investment in this type of new technology.
Yeah, I definitely think that there's a lot of noise out there. It can be overwhelming sometimes. Because the fact is there's so much out there. There's so many things you can use, which is both a blessing and a curse at the same time.
Yeah.
So depending on how much there is for you to be using. And I guess something that you're consistently focused on is the idea of personalization, because you've actually mentioned it a couple of times already, which is a clear indication. It's super important because even as I just said that I care about when I get a personalized recommendation and my thought goes so much farther that way. I'm curious how you think personalization has impacted customer retention, because obviously you've experienced it.
Yeah.
But aside from those really fun and iterative campaigns that you've been working on, how do you think it's impacted customer retention as a whole?
I think in general, definitely had a huge impact because by the time you start tracking what users are doing on your app and you have all this data in your hand, you can really start building tailored communication, but even tailored pathways for specific customers. And I think, personalization also comes to, creating those type of cohorts and understanding I could identify the travel industry, my weekenders bookers. So I'm going to have a whole different pathways for this type of customers that is more personal because I know that you're going to use my platform to book weekends. Whereas you might be a business travel customers in your weekday. So I can have a whole different pathway of communications to retain you because I know how you're going to use my platform more and more. So I think, it doesn't always limit to this single campaign where I'm going to personalize some elements to it, but it's really more trying to understand the whole, like the way you're going to use the platform. And, sometimes we're doing a lot of surveys to our customers or quizzes and using that data to start clustering and retargeting them with specific campaign, right? If you start clicking hotels with a pool, then I'm going to retarget you with a campaign full on hotels with a pool because you like that feature.
And I guess too, that part of that all comes down to creating that dynamic content based on if customer A says this, that, whatever, then you're going to create a path for this, that, whatever. And then I'm curious for yourself from your experiences and what you know now based on these different roles that you've done, what kind of strategies would you recommend to increase customer engagement? Because I would say even for our listeners, they get all this wonderful advice on being able to do things like personalization and dynamic content, but having someone like yourself who's an expert in the space, what kind of strategies would you recommend as things that are best practices or things that work really well, or how to use dynamic content to increase that overall engagement?
I think, dynamic content is something that I try to bring to all the companies that I saw working for. Because I think, again, it has a great opportunity, has a great value. And there are also like different degrees of dynamic content. I think, you can start with first name, to having a full, complete email, completely dynamic. Like, you can customize every single aspect of that email based on the customer data. I think, you have to understand where you want to start off. And usually my recommendation is start something small. Start with, an hypothesis that you have in mind for a personalization, whether it's, what if I personalize the content, the hero image based on the location of the customer? If you're living in London versus somewhere else. And then sometimes, even this type of dynamic content might take some investment, some resources. So I usually prefer start doing like a test, really manual, just to prove that this type of test has some positivity, measure the uplift and see what is your return. If you do have a positive impact, then I think it's the time that you can scale that type of testing to expand it to a greater segment. And then I think you can start building on top of this. As I said, you can always include more and more dynamic content in one email. I can give you the example at Hotel Tonight, where the end that we had was essentially an email that was completely dynamic from start to finish.
Wow.
But what we started with was with destination, very, very basic. So what we did was picking a segment and seeing what destinations were mostly booking. And so putting them in the email manually, and if we had some uplift by showing something that is more personal to them, we did see the uplift. So then what we did, we started creating our web pages with all these destinations. So we could dynamically grab all this information from the image, from the average price, and then we then moving it to the email. And then we said, okay, how are we going to do it then with hotels if destination were? And then we started testing on hotels itself. And so showing hotels in those destinations. So instead of showing the destination, you have different hotels. And so that had a positive impact. So we went to the software engineers and asked them, hey, can we build an API to get all the hotel information so we could insert that information into our emails? And that was the first step. We had the API built, but it was very variable. We had the hotel, the name, the image, and the price. And then as we were seeing again the opportunity, we kind of again scaled to have more information. And we had amenities, we had reviews, we had categories. And at the end of the day, the outcome was an email that was completely personal to the user.
That's so cool.
I mean, we were building just one email, but we had probably million versions of it on the ground. Because if you were opening, you would see hotels of the category that you mostly book nearby you because you like to book hotels nearby. Whereas I would see hotels maybe in the city that I traveled most recently with the amenities that I like.
That is awesome. And I really liked your step-by-step approach because I think it's a much more feasible way to understand that. And it's almost like, okay, does this work? If yes, do this. If no, go back to the drawing board.
Yeah.
But it's so I almost want to try it right now to see what I get.
Oh yeah, if you have Hotel Tonight, yeah, I hope they still have that. But I think they do. I think they do. But again, it was a long road because it took actually years to get to where we are. But it was just step by step. And every time by showing the impact that we had, we were able to actually put more resources into it.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. I just did a quick search on it just to see what would come up. And I love the fact that when I search Hotel Tonight on Google, I'm based in Toronto right now.
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing is find a hotel tonight in Toronto and the listing for Toronto, which again, very a small little aspect of it, but it's so much better than seeing a location that I'm not in right now because I'm more likely to go to the one that says, oh, we know exactly where you're at, aside from exactly where you're at. Very cool.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I know you mentioned or you touched on slightly when you were talking about your experiences and when you were working with Hotel Tonight all the way up till now is you commented a little bit on mobile first businesses. Now, I'm really curious about this because I'm curious to know what that kind of means or how really businesses can use mobile technology to reach more customers, because I'm sure there's some interesting aspects to that. So maybe you can touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's obvious to think that the mobile channel is almost like an essential and not that companies should invest in, right? I think I read recently that, people spend between 3 to 4 hours every day on the phone. Some others more, some others less, but it feels like quite a lot of time. So it would be silly not to really invest on a mobile channel. I think when you start thinking about it, you have to think about like an app or a mobile web even that needs to be a little bit different than your website. It needs to be simpler. It needs to be quick to use. People need to understand the value pretty quickly. When you're on the phone, you don't want to spend too much time to figure it out how the app uses. So it's very key to me to really let user experience the value as quickly as possible and as easy as possible. To say that if you download Hotel Tonight, you will see that you don't even need to sign up. You will land on the screen, see the hotel, immediately understand what great deals, what great hotels you have. And the user will just click, see the beautiful pictures, and then able to book really in 3 times. So again, try to give the experience of the cost to the customers as soon as possible, at least in the most simple way. Don't make it difficult, especially in the onboarding, because that will require time for their customers. Overall, I think delight and the surprise customer on your mobile channels. They have so many apps, right?
Yes.
So if you really want to do out, you have to think about as a more different channel than your website.
And so how would you go about building a customer journey based on that? Because surely based on what you just said, the fact that on the mobile app with Hotel Tonight, you can book in 3 taps alone, but then I'm sure the website or other forms might be different. So how do you build a customer journey based on mobile specifically?
So I think the journey, especially when it comes to the experience, but also the communications, is really to understand even the preferences of customers, especially how they want to be contacted. If I think of the pathway of all the communications that they're going to receive, and if I introduce, the mobile channel, which means having push notification, picking up messages, and especially push notification is something that can be quite intrusive for users. So I think understanding the preferences of customers is very key. And so how frequently do they want to receive push notifications is very important. And that could be from a setting center that highlights more details on, I want to receive push every week or every 2 weeks. But I think more and more we're going to start using AI and predict when the users will be most likely engaged with your app. And so you can predict them and send a push notification at the right time. But generally, I think, when you think about the customer journey in your app, and especially with the communication, always think of, maybe we can do this short because I got a little bit lost.
No worries.
But also, sorry, I put the customer journey more on the communication and push notification. I don't know if that would make more sense or that's okay. Yes, don't worry.
Okay. Because I wanted to keep it as open-ended as possible, so that's totally okay. I was actually quite interested. I was like, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because
I'm just gonna wrap up a bit better than I
did. Start from wherever you want. It's all good to go.
Okay, perfect. But thinking about the customer journey on a mobile device, I think it's very important to understand the preferences of customers. So of course, here we are receive tons of push notifications already for maybe sometimes more meaningful apps, your messages, your family. And so when you start having your own app, you have to understand when does my customer wants to be contacted, especially when you send a push notification. And so that could mean having a preference center that allows them to define the frequency of push notifications and messages. Or I think in the near future, probably AI will be very useful in this case to predict when the user is more likely to use my app. And so I can nudge them a little bit before with a push notification. So I think when you start including a mobile channel in your customer journey, always think about, the customer preferences and how they interact with your app, how frequently they're going to use your app. And so you can better understand how frequent I'm going to use my channels. Because I think especially, a Hotel Night or even an older, which is app-based, you don't want them to disinstall your app. So even at Hotel Night, we were so careful with push notifications because if you start bothering them too much, they're going to just disinstall immediately. Just be very careful, I think, when you start thinking about this channel.
I think that's such a great point because I can easily tell you, as you were talking about this, I was thinking about how good and how bad it can be on both cases. And I can easily tell you there's multiple productivity apps that I've downloaded where I uninstalled right away because the notifications come in at the wrong time. And it almost caused me more stress than anything.
Yeah.
It'll be like 6 a.m. and I get a notification saying, have you done this today? I'm like, no, leave me alone. I just woke up. Please don't. And so I can definitely understand why that would be so important. But it's interesting thinking about when the right message is going to the right customer at the right time, because I think it can actually be very, very powerful. And I can even think of times myself when I become a very sticky user or very, I guess, super user of a product because they've notified me about something at the perfect time where I was thinking, wow, they know exactly what I need in this moment. I'm happy to continue using XYZ products.
Yeah.
But you actually touched on something that I wanted to ask about to kind of bring our whole conversation to a close, which was around the future of this kind of relationship, because the importance is understanding that you've had all these experiences and you've seen all these different strategies, but it's really important to also understand how you view the future of this changing. So I'm curious from your point of view, how do you see the relationship between companies and customer retention strategies changing based on what you've experienced so far?
Yeah, I think the future is very exciting. First of all, especially for retention marketers, I think we're really moving towards really like a one-on-one communication. I think our communication will be more and more, of course, personalized. But not only that, I think companies will learn more about customers and they will be able to understand, as you said, when is the right time to talk to them and what I'm going to offer them at that time. And so I think I imagine kind of like the future where, you will almost have this personal assistant that knows you and knows how you evolve, how your preferences are evolving. So even if you put it into, the travel industry, if I open Airbnb in the near future, I would really only see the hotels that I love. And he will actually know when I'm usually gonna book. Maybe he knows that I'm always gonna book a travel trip August. So it will always, will give me some type of deals for that type of period, for that period of time. I think in the future is more like being very contextual, very personal, and AI will be definitely key on this because it will learn the preference of the person, but also it will kind of understand how the person is going to change and evolve. Maybe you're going to have a family soon, so you're going to have different needs when you're going to travel, for example, or when you shop online. So I think more and more AI will help us understand customer and how they evolved, and so predict as well what type of content they will like.
That is so interesting. And actually, you make a great point. A couple episodes ago, I was speaking with someone who was talking about, think about the customer experience side of things. Let's say when you're in the art of buying a car, right?
Mm-hmm.
Typically, you're going to be buying more cars in your lifetime. Not one car is not going to last you the entire time, or maybe you move cities, or maybe you have a family, or maybe different life events cause you to need a different car, or something happens to the car. Hopefully not, but there are different reasons to buy a car. And it's almost like building that profile of that person because we do change our condition from time to time. And so it's understanding how do you adapt to that. And so I think how you mentioned this one-on-one, I guess, interaction is one-on-one at scale almost, because AI will be able to help us accomplish one-on-one, but for millions and millions of people. And I feel like I myself, I totally agree with that, because the more charisma I can get from me, I am happy with it. Maybe others might not have the same view, but I think it's really interesting how we'll be able to do that so that the marketing is always direct. It's always thoughtful. It's always impactful. It always actually just makes really good sense. So I think that's very, very interesting. And a nice way to bring the whole conversation to a close about the different things that you see and the strategies that you recommend. It's been really, really insightful for that. But before I let you go, we just have a quick little lightning round that we always do just to have some fun questions and get to know you a little bit better. So I'm going to ask you 3 quick questions and then we'll end on a piece of advice just to close out our whole conversation today. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So first question of the lightning round is, what brand do you think has enormous potential in terms of their marketability?
So I think we haven't seen yet the full potential of TikTok. I'll put it this way. I think, I think, they've been great. They're growing enormously, and they're putting a lot of investment into their algorithm. Also they're becoming extremely personal, but I'm already seeing how they're trying to expand their product offering. I read, I think recently that they're going to launch their music service that makes sense. Like Apple Music. Yeah. It makes, how many new songs have you found out from TikTok? I personally.
I would say the last ads to my library have all been from TikTok, like the things flying around.
Yeah. Or how many songs got to the top of the chart because of TikTok and they were
Absolutely.
released a few years ago. Right. So I think that is a great move, but I see even more potential to expand into even the travel industry. Like I got actually great inspiration from TikTok on places where to go, what to visit, what to see. Probably, yeah, influencers will be key on this, but if I can have a full experience within the same platform, that's even better for me. I mean, just one app that does all the things that I like and an app that actually knows me. They're actually starting to learn a lot about you by what you like, what you view. So I think the potential of this type of social media, I think, will be enormous in commerce in the future next year.
Very cool. All right. Second question. Is marketing more of an art or a science?
That's an interesting question. Actually, it actually speaks a lot to me because when I was at uni, I actually studied marketing and management for art and culture.
Cool.
They actually had really art focused courses and then also management courses on the side on how I'm going to apply it. But I think, yeah, so to your question, I think, of course, I think it's a both of. It's, I think coming back to your question is, sorry.
You're all good. Don't worry.
To the end and to the day. Yeah, getting back to your question, I think, yeah, marketing incorporates both elements. So bit of art, bit of science. Of course, art, you're talking about, the copy, the design and the brand. And, we mentioned also Airbnb, how focus has been on the design, on thinking about the whole customer experience and what I'm going to show to customers. But of course, I think you cannot forget about the science or the data, the research that you're going to do about your customers and kind of like grabbing their insights and then translating it into something that is more designed. That could be an experience in your app or it could be an email, could be a push notification. So I think you always have to combine both of them. And that's also why I love marketing and retention marketing.
Yeah, I think it's cool because it's almost like even all those tests that you ran are basically taking the insights. It's basically testing some sort of hypothesis and then you're doing something with that outcome. But the outcome is really the creativity of it all. So very cool. All right. Last but not least in the lightning round is if you could have anyone as a marketing mentor, who would it be?
Interesting. Well, in this case, I'll give you an example from Italy.
Oh,
I don't know if you know, but it's the most famous Italian influencer, I think, in the world. It's called Chiara Ferragni. And I followed her since really the beginning of her career. We actually went to the same university. But now she has like 30 million following on Instagram. I don't, but
close.
Yeah. But the reality why I admire her is that she created a brand of herself, of her life. And now every partner that collaborates with her has such an impact. And the association with her name is so powerful. She even built a whole industry. Like she has e-commerce. She built a fashion brand. She has a fashion brand. So I think, why I admire her is that she got where she is today because she listened to her fan base. She selected the brand and partners that she really loves, but she knows that her fan base will love. So again, listening to your customers is very, very key, so that you can offer them a more with that personal life, something that they would actually like and engage with. But I think the other thing that I really admire from her is that she took a lot of risks. She hasn't done the usual influencer stuff. Like she presented TV programs. She has a TV show about her life and she shared a lot of difficult moments in her life. And so I think I translate that into like companies should take risks in general. Like you cannot really live in your own bubble, but take a risk. And so that I think is the way you're gonna grow.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you for that. And just to close out, is there a piece of marketing or life advice that someone shared with you once that has always stayed with you?
Yes, actually, it's coming from one of my professors at uni. I don't remember exactly the word, but I'll tell you what I remember. And it says, if you're the smartest person in the room, you are in the wrong room. So it really stuck to me the whole time. It's not that throughout my career, I've always been very curious. I've always been trying to reach out to companies. And that meant, always being surrounded by people who could inspire me and really strive for excellence, looking for improvements. So having people that might know a little bit more about product marketing, know a little bit about customer insights. So always be very hungry for learning. And I think that really stick to me until now.
Yeah, I really like that. And a really nice way to bring the whole show together, because I even think that myself, I'm always learning from these awesome conversations with people like yourself. And it's awesome to be surrounding yourself in a way that you can always be learning in a different context or have something to learn from someone else, because everybody's different. They all have shared experience or different experiences, sorry. And I think it's really interesting to always be in that mindset to learn and to be able to gain and give at the same time. So I really like that a lot. But thank you so much for joining me on the show today. It was awesome to have you. And I know the listeners will be very excited to hear all your insights and your examples and your strategies. So thank you so much for sharing that with us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.